Welcome to the special edition of the Tea with April. You know, we spill the tea a lot and we talk about a lot of interesting issues that really impact you. And today we have someone um, who's very important to this moment. 6 months after Donald Trump in his second term, which is on steroids over the first term, and issues of women's health are in the forefront. Sometimes it ebb and flows depending on what issue is top of mind as it is coming at you from that fire hose that we take every day. So we have to go through the issues, but still on the table is women's health care. And with us today, Alex, Alexis McGill Johnson of Planned Parenthood. Alexis, thank you so much.
Oh, April, it's so good to see you. Thank you so much for continuing to, share all that we need to talk about around freedom and women's health and where we are in this moment. I couldn't miss an opportunity to be in conversation with you.
Thank you. Now, here's my issue. Um, Everyone thought that abortion rights, was going to be the key piece in this Kamala Harris, Donald Trump contest. And it wound up actually not being so. What shifted? What happened in your opinion? And where are we today?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I really appreciate having an opportunity to clarify how we see it. Let's remember that we are now 3 years past the Dobbs decision. We are now living in a world where, a little less than half of the country has, restrictions on being able to get access to abortion rights, and maybe even more given this insane bill that has become a law trying to defund Planned Parenthood. And we should talk about the injunction that allows patients to continue to get care today. But in 2024, reproductive freedom was still a core issue. The vice president lost the election by just a couple 100,000 votes in a couple of states, while we also won so many ballot initiatives in states as varied, right, as, like Arizona, and places that were incredibly purple, and where we were fighting so hard again for both fighting for the right to protect our bodies in state constitutions, as well as trying to protect reproductive freedom champions up and down the ballot. So most of the places that had ballot initiatives on reproductive freedom won, and the two places that didn't, where we did not actually win reproductive freedom, it was because they were essentially ballot initiatives that had a lot of anti-democratic rules in them. So to me, that says that people believe in reproductive freedom. People believe, the majority of people in state after state believe in reproductive freedom, and that when reproductive freedom is on the ballot in a way that actually we can access and will make a difference in a community, we will show up and we will win. The question we have to ask is, how do we translate the need to fight for reproductive freedom in a state with the fight for reproductive freedom nationally, right? And that the leaders that we need to show up, how do we support them? And I think that's where the disconnect was in this election, that when Donald Trump came out and said, oh, I'm not going to do anything. I'm like the most pro, family, pro reproductive freedom person there is. And, Melania came out and said she supported reproductive freedom choice, that people almost believed him. And they said, okay, he's not going to do anything and create a national ban. And so essentially where we are right now with this backdoor abortion ban, with this Medicaid bill defunding Planned Parenthood, we're living in that world. But I think people just heard him say that and they said, well, I'm just going to take this vote where I am, and then I'm going to vote for the candidates that, they believe are going to do something else.
Kamala Harris has a new book out, 107 Days. But she also went on Stephen Colbert recently. And I saw Kamala Harris, a woman who was different than she was as vice president when she was running for president. It felt like it got to her, she said the system is broken. It made us wonder because I'm not running for governor of California. The future, she doesn't want to put herself out there because the system is broken right now. She doesn't want to serve in a space that is so broken. Does that give you pause as a woman, as a woman of color in this nation who deals with an issue that is really one of the lightning rods in this nation? For this woman who was the symbol, and everyone was in the fetal position after November 5th, 2024, and she's saying the system is broken after all of this hope, optimism, especially on issues of abortion. What does that give you pause? What do you think about that?
You know what? We were with her for 107 days and beyond. We've always been with her because she's been such a strong supporter of reproductive freedom, but we knew it was going to be a critical issue in the conversation. And so, we endorsed her almost immediately, and we showed up for her everywhere we could on the campaign trail. And again, what we saw on the ground was that people understood that their freedoms were deeply tied to their democracy, that our bodies, in fact, are the original democracy, that your ability to control who you are and express yourself is the same core animation of what it means to be able to cast your ballot and express your views and your opinion. So there's something fundamental, and we don't appreciate it now, maybe because, we couldn't hear or see her because of our own biases, what she was saying at the time. But when she was connecting abortion and democracy and freedom and our bodies, she was saying something incredibly revolutionary about why the fight is so important right now. What she is saying about the system being broken, yes, we also have been living in it. And I think when one of the most important things for us to understand around abortion bans, wherever you are, is that when democracies descend into authoritarianism, the first thing that a tyrant does is they try to instill bans on reproductive freedom. They try to control what we do with our bodies because it's the easiest way to control half the population. It's the easiest way. We've seen it in Poland. We've seen it in, we've seen it in countries all across the world that have been really trying to move in ways that are anti-reproductive freedom. And so, or really descending into authoritarianism. And so I think what she is saying is that, for the last 15 years, we have seen state after state enact abortion restrictions, pushing the limits, testing the laws, seeing where they can export opportunities to extend control even further. Abortion bans have led to surveillance, right? They've led to criminalization. They've led to questions of what minors can do and how they can control crossing state lines, all things that we would think would be antithetical to our Constitution, but they're using it as a way to really undermine the system and create a way of being where we actually are very destabilized. And so when I hear her say that, I see her documenting the last 15 years of a consolidation of control and power through state houses, through state courts, through our federal judiciary, and through Congress and this administration, that is deeply concerning. But we still have to fight back, right? We can't actually accept that is actually going to be the future for our children.
And what is the fight? We've seen 6 months. Now we have another 6 months. Abortion is one of those issues that's always there, but it makes news. It's above the fold or in the A block of a news program when there's that crescendo moment. Beyond the crescendo moment, what is the activation now? What is the campaign to move forward? What is the effort to change where we are today to provide health care for women who need it?
Right. So there's an immediate fight, and then there's a long-term fight. And I want to just start with the long-term fight, because I don't want us to forget the fact that the reason why Roe was overturned is because the opposition had a 50-year strategy. They had a 50-year plan, right? They took over the state houses, they took over the courts, they, got their people into places while we were being complacent because we've never been a country that takes rights away, reproductive freedom away, like we've been building progress towards. And then they slowly walked those rights back, So I think it's one of those things where watching the way in which the right has operated to say something like, your rights are not guaranteed, right? That they're always contested, and they built the system to lock us out of power and then take them out of reach for us. And so we have to have that same kind of strategy. And we have been building out a plan to get back into the Constitution. And that is state by state. There's no state where banning abortion is popular. There is no state where criminalizing providers and patients is popular. There is no state where denying people and forcing them into pregnancy is popular. And so we have to capitalize on that where people are to help them understand that their lawmakers are putting them in that place. And so that is like just our long game. We're clear, we're focused. Abortion, Planned Parenthood, more popular than any politician right now. In the immediate, we also have to look at the assaults that are happening in the last 6 months, which, my God, feel like 60 years of insanity. You know, we have had attacks from all sides. The administration took away Title X funding, not because of abortion, actually, but because we actually practice inclusion, because we want to make sure our patients can be seen and heard and understood in the languages in which they speak. Like, okay, they came at us in the Supreme Court in a case that allowed, you know, the state of South Carolina to deny patients to determine that Planned Parenthood was their provider and use Medicaid funding for them. So that's going to create a space for states all across, you know, the South and the Midwest who disagree with Planned Parenthood.
And that's something a lot of people don't understand. Planned Parenthood is not just a place for an abortion.
No.
Planned Parenthood provides so many services for women who don't have a traditional doctor, if you will, or, you know, they need information, and that is one of the places. And this is what people, they think it's just about that one thing. It's so much bigger than that.
We're talking about access to contraception and
Yeah.
birth control and breast exams and wellness exams and, you know, all of that. But they're basically saying, if you provide abortion, you can't go to if you can't use your insurance to go to Planned Parenthood. So like they're allowing states to dictate that under this Supreme Court ruling rather. And then we have this Medicaid defund in the big bad betrayal of a bill that has now become law. And, you know, the impact for Planned Parenthood, which is a provision that defunded Planned Parenthood because we provide abortion. It is like essentially a backdoor abortion national ban. You know, half of our patients are Medicaid patients because we are a safety net organization. And because we proudly provide abortion in states where we still can, and because we understand that controlling your reproduction is key to your, you know, your freedom, your economic freedom, your family freedom, your ability to decide who you want to be. They decided that the opposition decided that they wanted to take that away from people and use those dollars to transfer wealth to billionaires. So we are in this moment of a fight back. We have gotten a preliminary injunction in the district court with a case that was brought in Massachusetts that allows us to continue to bill Medicaid like any other provider would do for the services that we provided, for the STI tests, for the birth control, for the wellness exams.
Pap smears.
Yeah, exactly. You know, abortion is not actually covered in Medicaid because of the Hyde Amendment. So except in the most extreme examples or instances. So, you know, essentially the judge understood kind of our right and our ability as an organization to express and a corporation to express our First Amendment rights to deliver the care that we need. So patients can still get care if they have Medicaid, and the action now is to both, if you need care, to call your local Planned Parenthood to determine the best way to do that, and if you want to be in the fight, to go to I'm4pp.org and figure out, you know, how you can best participate.
How do you make up for these cuts, as women are in need more so now than ever with job cuts, cuts to Medicaid, etc.?
Yeah, I think it's so important now to support your local Planned Parenthoods. They are the ones who are providing healthcare in communities. They're literally on the front lines of fighting tyranny, one patient at a time. They're the ones who are showing up and opening up doors in front of protesters, some of whom are, even scarier given the climate and given the kind of emboldened, that we have seen of people who are responding to this regime. And, ensuring that these patients are getting the care that they need, supporting us at the national organization to ensure that the patient navigation can be helped. We should not be living in a world where, I don't know, people have to, take buses and trains and planes in order to get access to care. Like, that is not a future state. And, oh, you went on mute, April.
Yes, the example is if you live in Texas
Yes.
and you need, this is what she said, planes, trains, and automobiles to get to healthcare. You live in Texas and you want to find a place where you can. And then even if you do that, there's a concern that people will track your whereabouts. There's
Yes.
so much to this.
So much. And it's a proxy, right? I mean, we're talking about reproductive freedom and just getting, access to care, but like we're also talking about the systems that they are building in government in order to track us, the surveillance that they're giving them permission to engage in. It may be used to track our periods and our health records, but like, what else are they going to use it for? And what is it going to mean for the next level of surveillance and control that they want to see? So I do think it's really important for us to be thinking about this, both as in the local, right? In the local as in our bodies, and in the, the macro and the national of like, who are we as a society? Is this a society we want to live in when, when the state has decided it can determine where you are at any time? It can determine what you have access to. That is not a world that anyone wants to live in. And we understand that, particularly as Black women, that when people control your bodies, they control your futures.
That's true. Anything else, Alexis, that you want to add?
No, I just want to make sure that everyone is out for the fight, right? That and they understand that this is a long game, that we are fighting this defund fight in the courts. We are going to fight this defund fight next year in the midterm elections. It's our biggest opportunity to stop this big, bad, bold, horrible agenda to deny people access to freedom. And and we just have a couple more bites at this apple before we descend into a full authoritarian regime. And I am hopeful because people have been showing up, they have been supporting, they have been marching, and they understand that what's at stake right now is to continue to demonstrate to these lawmakers that the cuts that they've made to not just to Planned Parenthood, but to Medicaid and safety nets is not acceptable, and we're not going to have it anymore.
Alexis McGill Johnson of Planned Parenthood, thank you so much for joining to talk about women's health care. Last year, this last 6 months, and going forward, we thank you. Thank you so much for joining us for the Tea with April.
Thank you.